Mrs. Shope, are you ready?
Yes, I am.
Wonderful. It is 6:01. I am calling to order the Tuesday, November 4th regular board meeting. Mrs. Shope, can we get a roll call, please?
Yes. Joanne Rule,
Here.
Megan Miller,
Present.
Carol Fox,
Here.
Brian Nichols,
Here.
Tom Hankins,
I'm here.
Amy Levy,
Here.
and Tia Johnson.
Here.
All members are present.
Thank you. I am asking for an approval of the agenda with changing the order of the items 9B and 9C. And this is to get our legal team out of here earlier rather than later.
So moved.
Could you repeat that change, please?
9B and 9C.
I'm sorry, to remove it or just swap it?
Switch the order.
Okay, unless I'm missing something so that's just the approval of the minutes. Did you want to move that up before B?
I don't know which one you're looking at. 9B is consideration related to preparation for the interim superintendent interview process.
Yep.
9C is legal advice regarding updates in the DNR soil contamination suit.
Right, and that's why I'm saying if you want to get legal out sooner, shouldn't we put them where B is? So they're not waiting around till
Yeah.
we do B?
Yeah, so I'm asking to switch those two items.
You were saying B, and I heard D. Mystery solved, thank you.
So B as in boy and C as in cat.
Second?
Motion by Brian Nichols, seconded by Amy Levy. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Tonight, we have the pleasure of having Principal Emily Pels here to introduce Beloit Memorial ROTC students to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Ms. Pels?
Okay, good evening. Yes, tonight we have with us Sergeant Ronald Bartow and his color guard from the Beloit Memorial High School JROTC. Whenever you are ready, students.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America
And to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
Thank you, Sergeant Bartow, and all of these wonderful students, and Mrs. Pels. Next, we have the board president report. Good evening, and thank you for joining us tonight, both in person and virtually. November 3rd through November 7th marks National School Psychology Week, a time to celebrate the vital contributions school psychologists make to the well-being and academic success of all students. These dedicated professionals promote mental health, support learning, and strengthen collaboration among educators, families, and students. We may be biased, but we truly believe we have the best school psychologists right here in the school district of Beloit. Please join us this week in recognizing and celebrating their incredible work and impact across our schools. We're thrilled to share some wonderful news. Each year, Mr. Bianetti's fifth grade class at Converse Elementary leads a community service project collecting new socks for Beloit Cares, and socks are one of the most needed donation items. This year, our amazing students collected 1,021 pairs of socks, setting a new record for donations. These were delivered to Beloit Cares by Sarah Hawthorne today, and our students were very excited to present their box of socks to her. What an inspiring example of compassion, teamwork, and community spirit. Our students and family truly make Beloit proud. We have an upcoming workshop opportunity regarding declining enrollment. CESA 1 and WASBO are hosting a workshop on December 3rd focused on declining enrollment. The session will bring together district leaders to collaborate on strategies around programming, staffing, and financial planning. If you are interested in attending, please contact Finance Director Elwood or me for more details. Thank you to everyone who participated in our recent listening surveys regarding our district needs and financial situation. The Board of Education and District Administration are carefully reviewing feedback along with financial analysis as we consider whether to propose a future referendum. On October 27th, the board approved the 25-26 budget and certified district's property tax levy at the maximum allowed under state revenue limits. This action, routine and within the state cap, does not require a public vote. It ensures stability in day-to-day operations and supports the needs of our students and staff. A referendum, by contrast, would ask voters for permission to exceed state limits for ongoing operations or to borrow for facilities. We recognize the challenges ahead, and we are committed to learning from the past while focusing on progress. Together, we're listening, planning, and working toward one shared goal: consistent student growth and strong support for teachers in every classroom, every day. If the board directs administration to develop a referendum proposal, updates will be shared publicly, noticed board meetings, and on our website, sdb.k12.wi.us/board. Please stay engaged with us as we continue this important planning and decision-making process. Finally, we invite everyone to join us at Beloit Memorial High School on Thursday, November 13th at 1 p.m. in the Barkin Arena for the official celebration of the Johnny Watts basketball court naming. This event honors the rich history of the school district of Beloit and its ongoing positive impact on student lives. We are excited to celebrate the legacy of Johnny Watts, a Beloit Memorial basketball legend whose story continues to inspire generations. Born in 1913, Johnny Watts was a trailblazer for black athletes in Wisconsin. In the early 1930s, he starred on an otherwise all-white basketball team and led Beloit to 3 consecutive WIAA state titles, a historic achievement, with his junior year championship being particularly memorable. Watts's courage, talent, and leadership broke barriers during a time of segregation and adversity. His contributions to high school athletics in Wisconsin and to the sport of basketball nationwide paved the way for countless others. We honor Johnny Watts for his pioneering spirit and lasting legacy. May his remarkable achievements and example never be forgotten. We hope to see you join us in this celebration on Thursday, November 13th at the Barkin. Thank you again for your continued engagement and support. That concludes my president's report. Next, we have upcoming events and announcements. Board Clerk Hankins.
Thank you, Board President. Board announcements for November 4th, 2025. Report cards are scheduled to go home on November 8th, and BMHS parent-teacher conferences will be held on November 13th from 5 to 7. On November 13th, BMHS is hosting the Johnny Watts court naming ceremony. It will be held in the Barkin Arena at 1 p.m. please show up. I mean, this is going to be a huge thing for the whole community. Number 3, the BMHS Fall Play Rossum's Universal Robots will take place at 7 p.m. November 13th through the 15th, and will show on November 16th at 2 p.m. On November 18th, the BMHS Fall Choir Concert will be held at the high school at 7 p.m. Upcoming board meetings, which you guys are all interested in. The Policy and HR Committee will meet on Monday, November 17th at 4. The Teaching, Learning, and Equity Committee will meet on Tuesday, November 18th at 5. The next regular board meeting will be held on Tuesday, November 18th at 6 p.m. Keep up with SDB by visiting our website, www.sdbk12.wis.us, or you can download the SDB app from your phone app store. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Hankins. Next, we have Beloit Memorial High School Principal Emily Pels to help us with the recognitions of BMHS Skills US program.
Yeah. Okay, there we go. Good evening. So yesterday at Beloit Memorial High School was kind of a big deal. Even though students were home for the day because the district was engaging in professional learning, we at Beloit Memorial High School hosted 167 students from 12 different school districts with a variety of different advisors and industry partners and observers and volunteers, bringing a total of 220 people to the school altogether for the Skills USA competition. And so tonight, I would like to, first of all, invite Mr. Joe Kluge up to the podium next to me and recognize him for all of the work that he did to ensure that this event was a very successful one. So Mr. Kluge is our welding teacher at Beloit Memorial High School, and he is also our Skills USA advisor. This is an area that he has a lot of expertise in because he was an advisor in a previous career as well, which really helped us get involved with Skills USA at the state level. Starting, was it last year was our first official competition? Yes. Yes. And so we did very well there. And as a result of that, the district who hosted previously, they were passing on the torch. And when the state was looking for the next school district to kind of take this on, Mr. Kluge did not hesitate at all with just jumping in and offering up Beloit Memorial High School. And the feedback that we got was very positive from several of the school districts, just extremely impressed with our facilities and the opportunities that the students have at Beloit Memorial High School. And none of that would have been possible without Mr. Kluge's leadership. So tonight I would like to recognize Mr. Kluge for his leadership. And thank you for your passion for career and technical education, and your love for learning, and your passion for getting students involved and giving them as many opportunities as possible. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Pels, and thank you, Mr. Kluge. I know that what you've done in the short time that you've been with the district has been really remarkable. You've inspired a lot of students and instilled a lot of hope and career guidance, and that is so important to us. So we really, really appreciate that, and hope that we can continue supporting you in everything you do there. Likewise for you, Mrs. Pels. Next, we have public comment. Ms. Shope or Ms. Dooley, is there any public comment tonight?
No, I have none to be read, and Ms. Dooley said there was none in the room.
Okay, thank you. Next, we have reports to the board. Our first one is the Business Operations and Finance Committee meeting, Chairperson Hankins.
Yes, thank you. I think the big part, gosh, I'm not used to doing this, and I know I've been absent the last couple months when this happens. We're going through the real property for sale, and Mrs. Marquette did a nice presentation on how that goes. Dr. Garrison, could you help me out?
So we talked about the sale of real property. We also talked about the cash flow borrowing.
Yes.
And then our last conversation was centered around our monthly financials.
Yes,
No
yes,
problem.
thank you.
No
The
problem.
cash flow borrowing is a yearly cycle we go through, and RFPs put out from several banks locally if we have to do short-term borrowing on the rates we get back, and so I think that's kind of procedural, right? And the budget is what it is. So thank you so much. That's my report.
Thank you, Mr. Hankins and Dr. Garrison. Next, we have Policy and HR Committee, Chairperson Nichols.
Thank you, Board President Johnson. Yes, we had our meeting yesterday afternoon, and we moved the HR Committee Exhibit A to the full board for approval tonight. And then the other time was spent, we had discussions on two items, Neola policy, looking at that as a possibility down the road, and then a district deliverable timeline policy to hopefully streamline our operations and make our timelines more concrete in all the areas of the district. So stay tuned for more about those two things. That's my report for tonight.
Thank you, Mr. Nichols. Our first board action and discussion item is interim superintendent hiring and interview process. Mrs. Almendarez will be assisting me in this. The purpose of this is to inform the board and community of the status and process for the selection of the interim superintendent based on consultation with legal counsel and HR. Mrs. Almendarez, would you like to walk us through the applicant pre-screening and recommendation item?
So good evening, everyone. We posted this position and have been compliant with the duration that it needs to remain open. We've actually exceeded it by 11, for a total of 11 days. We currently have a generous pool that we are evaluating based on a number of matrix, and I will be as deep into this as you would like me to be, Board President Johnson, but we did create some criteria from an HR perspective to help us to assess the qualifications and what would meet the expectations that the board has set forth for the interim superintendent. And so I'll go over some of these metrics to kind of understand a little bit. Fit is a big thing for our district, and so there is definitely a desire for the individual to either be knowledgeable of our district or in some way understanding of the situation that we're in. The other qualification, preferably, is that the individual have prior superintendent experience so that they can essentially hit the ground running in that interim role. It is a lot more difficult to not only learn the district and the situation that we're in, while also trying to learn a particular position. However, we need to weigh the pros and cons of someone that already knows a district versus someone that has the superintendent experience. So that criteria will be discerned by the board as we determine the pros and cons of each of the candidates. This evening, I am prepared to bring forward to the board who the candidates are, what the pre-screening conclusions are from HR, allow you to review the candidates so that we can move forward with the selected candidates for an interview that will likely take place either at the end of this week or sometime next week to be determined. After that happens, we will have the interviews in open session so that the public can listen in and gauge what each of the candidates brings. And the board will have the exclusive ability to vote on who the interim superintendent will be if one is chosen from that pool.
Thank you. Are there any board questions for Mrs. Almendarez on the applicant pre-screening process that are open session questions? Thank you. The next, oh, go ahead.
Not a question, but I do have a comment. One thing that made my ears perk up when you were speaking is that someone who is a good fit. I am hesitant to use fit because that means someone needs to augment themselves to fit into what we have going on here. And I am much more interested in finding someone who is a good addition to our district. I want whoever our candidate for the interim and ultimately the permanent position to be able to show up fully as themselves with all of their talents and amazing skills and not try to fit that person into what we have going on here. So I just wanted to be cognizant of that.
And I appreciate that. And just to clarify, when I utilize the word fit, I'm thinking more along the lines of someone who understands our demographics, our financial status, and what they can bring to us and how that aligns with each other. So it's definitely not a fit the box. It's just having an understanding of our district and an ability to, like you said, add to what we offer here.
Thanks for that clarification.
Thank you.
Thank you. The next item under this is the interview committee selection. The recommendation is to have a representative from cabinet, 2 representatives from building principals, and a representative from the BEA to be on the interview committee. Their role will be to provide feedback to the board from the perspectives in their respective roles and professional opinions of the candidates. The principal team was selected amongst the principals, and they have chosen Merrill Principal Regina McAllister and Aldridge Principal Joe Vrydox, and the BEA has selected a representative, Melissa Rohrbeck. There had been discussion about possibly having feedback forms for the public to submit. However, after speaking to our legal team, I recommend we do not go this route. While we do want input from our public, this would mean all of those responses from the public would be subject to open records requests. Should there be any false statements or any response that could potentially have a negative impact on a candidate's future employment opportunities, may put us in a vulnerable position legally. Furthermore, to my knowledge, in our district, we have never sought input from the public when hiring an interim superintendent. For the position of a permanent superintendent, search firms, listening sessions, meet and greets, as well as community committees have been used in the hiring process. These are all recommendations I hope the board considers when it is time to hire for that permanent position. Mrs. Almendarez, was there anything that you would add to that?
No, I think that summarizes it very well. Thank you.
Thank you. The next I'm
sorry. I have a question.
Go ahead,
about that.
please.
Okay, thank you so much. So a couple of things. One, I am in support of having the community provide feedback. I appreciate the information that you laid out, but has consideration been given to us giving a disclaimer? Like the views, opinions, comments are not necessarily supported or promoted by the district, because I think that's an important part of feedback, and I would love to have our community involved in the interim. So I just wanted to put that out there. And then the second thing, the interviews that will be conducted by the committee, will those be recorded and available for the board to view?
The board will be there. The board is part of the committee.
Okay, you didn't specifically list. I thought the pre-screening is that we were going to get feedback from them. They were going to give us their feedback.
So we are the hiring manager, so we are on the committee. What I would like to have are those other groups represented in the hiring committee, not as voting members, but just as giving their opinions of the candidates.
Perfect. So quick question. Will they be present for deliberation, or will there be separation with feedback is shared, non-board members will be excused, and then deliberations will occur?
Yes. After the interviews, we will go into closed session. We will receive their feedback verbally. They will be excused. The board will deliberate and either make a decision or decide to keep looking.
Thank you so much.
Mr. Hankins.
Yes, and on the same notion, so as we go through this exercise, a very important exercise, we do an interview and then we deliberate, or do we take a group and then deliberate? I mean, how do you see this happening? I mean,
I'm
okay,
not
so
quite certain I
we have a
understand the
pool of
question.
8 people. Let's say we do them on a Tuesday night or whatever night it is, and then we interview as a group, and then we deliberate, and then we go into closed session, or is it one?
All of the deliberation will take place in closed session.
But the interview process, will that go, we just interview?
Yes, we interview
And then,
X number of candidates.
correct.
We go into closed session with the full committee, get the feedback from those different groups, excuse them. The board will deliberate and make a decision.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Just
ahead.
really briefly, what is the number in the pool?
We have 7 currently.
Okay, thank you so much.
Any other questions? Okay, next, the interview and hiring timeline. The interview schedule will depend on the hiring committee's availability. We will do our best to accommodate everyone's schedule while also making every effort not to delay the process. Also, affecting the interview timeline is whether the board decides to have the candidates submit a written response, as sometimes is done for interim superintendent positions. If we do request a written essay, that this will add for a few extra days to allow candidates time to produce this. I will ask the board secretary to do a doodle poll of some dates and times. If any board members are not familiar with using Doodle or need assistance, please contact Michelle Shope, Donna Dooley, or myself, and we are all happy to help in that. Mrs. Almendarez, is there anything that I have overlooked for this part?
No, ma'am.
Okay, any questions on the timeline? The contingent offer of hire / pre-employment requirements, Mrs. Almendarez?
So this is where the timeline becomes a little bit more skewed, depending on the applicant, their availability to be able to go through all of the pre-employment requirements, such as background checks, drug screening, et cetera. Depending on how many places they've lived, we may have to wait on multiple municipalities to provide us with background information. And the same thing with their ability to schedule for the physical and the drug screening around their schedule. So we could be looking as quickly as 1 week from the contingent offer of hire to potentially 2 weeks, worst case scenario, 3 weeks.
Any questions on this part? Next, the negotiation/contract. We have been working with legal to develop a template of an interim superintendent contract. This will be modified according to the negotiated terms between the selected candidate and the board. Mrs. Almendarez, was there anything you wanted to add there?
No, ma'am.
Any questions on that? And the final one, the press release announcement. Once the candidate has been approved and vetted through the background check, there will be communication to staff, families, and the community informing them of the board's decision. After that, we will work with the interim superintendent and the cabinet to support a smooth transition. Mrs. Almendarez?
And I want to reassure everyone watching that we have had Dr. Garrison working very diligently with Cabinet to ensure that we have a transition plan in place and that all of our projects and important work is continued upon his departures, and so that things do not slip through the cracks. So very thankful for that.
Thank you. Are there any questions or comments before we move on? Hearing none, our next item is the SDB Staffing Survey Update. Mrs. Almendarez?
We have Dr. Gottlieb, who is here tonight to present the results from our 2025 Staff Climate Survey. We have had some success in creating a baseline as well as having a point of comparison with other districts so that we can see where we're at as far as employee satisfaction, working at our district, with the tools they're getting, their leadership, et cetera. And our collaboration with School Perceptions has continued over the past couple so years. And to speak to the data that has been provided, we have Dr. Gottlieb here tonight, and he will help us through the slide presentation.
That's right. Hi, everybody. Thank you for having me. I'd like to share my screen, if that's okay, and walk through the slideshow that we have prepared. Okay. Window. Oh, no. Oh, no. I need to do this in a Chrome tab, apparently, not in a window, because I do not have the right settings, apparently. I may have to drop out of this meeting and rejoin real briefly. I'm so sorry. This is very annoying and has not happened to me yet. This is too annoying.
You don't need to leave. We will be presenting on our end if that's okay with you.
Oh, great. Please.
Thank you.
Will I be able to see what you are presenting? I hope so. Okay, great. In that case, if you don't mind a little next slide, please. This won't be any kind of problem. Thank you. We should start with the overall report, obviously. Yes, great. Excellent. What we do in these reports is we give, slide 2, please. What we do in these reports, we give a little background about ourselves for the company. We talk about the respondents who actually took the survey. We go through the results both at an index level, which I'll talk about in a little bit, and then on an item by item basis. And then we can take some questions at the end. So slide 3 for some background on us. We've been around for quite a while, over 20 years now, have done over 3 million staff, parent, and student and community surveys for school improvement. And have done this work with over 1,000 school districts all across the country, but especially in Wisconsin. Slide 4. For this particular survey, we had a survey deadline of October 6th. 301 staff members responded. That's a 41% response rate. So that is the sample that we are looking at through this survey. Next slide, please. You can see the breakdown of where staff are working in the district. Beloit Memorial, obviously being an enormous school, has the single most employees. Next slide, please. That is of respondents. The majority of respondents are classroom teachers. This is obviously the case in every district because, well, educational specialists are 16%, paraprofessionals make up 11% of the sample, support staff 9%, substitute staff 1%, admin 3%, choose not to answer 12%. The respondents' general tenure in terms of working for the district, the majority of respondents have worked for the district for more than 10 years, with the smallest single block working or being relatively new to the district. So our index analyses, each one of our items feeds an index item. And I'll show you those in a second. But the scale that we use, and you'll see this again on our individual items, is a 1 to 5 Likert scale, from strongly disagree being 1 to strongly agree at 5. You'll notice that there's no 3-point neutral question. We sort of, our items ask people to make a decision about whether they generally agree or generally disagree with things. There's a don't know, doesn't apply option, and that is just not included in our sort of average calculations. So it is possible to get a statistical average of 3 for any given item, but no individual respondent can choose something that is numerically 3. Next slide, please. So our indices are academics, engagement, support, student experience, and staff experience. Those are our 23 questions feed into those. The big overarching story that you're going to see throughout this presentation is that on a year-over-year basis, Beloit has made significant improvements in terms of staff engagement overall, with some areas of softening that we'll talk about as well. Academics, 7.6% change over last year, from 2.91 to 3.13. The comparison score is 3.53. Student engagement is up 2.9%. Support is down 4.0%. And that seems like a lot, but I'm going to show you a little bit later that it is like one area in particular that is responsible for most of that index's change. Student experience is up from 3.58 to 3.65, and staff experience is up slightly from 3.47 to 3.55. These aren't enormous leaps in growth, but taken all together, they show that staff feels better about their experience in Beloit than they did last year. Next slide. Item analysis, same scale. We can just move straight down to the next slide. This is each individual item on our survey with the same columns in place: current score, previous score, percent change, and comparison. The district seeks input from a broad group of staff members. Our school's student discipline practices and policies are effective. Information important to my work is shared with me in a timely and effective manner. Our staff handles student discipline in a consistent manner. These are ordered by percent change. We never see school districts in which these 4 items are the 4 most improved, basically. Every district in the state, in the country really, is struggling with student discipline in particular. So to see growth, particularly large growth on those areas, is a really significant improvement. Similarly, for the district seeking input from a broad group of staff members, that's also extremely encouraging, especially for, we know that these factors in particular are strongly linked to staff retention. So those are big wins. Next slide, please. Comfortable sharing input and concerns with my supervisors. Most days I look forward to going to work. I feel supported by my supervisor when I make a decision. Our staff does a good job of educating our students. The amount of work I am asked to do is reasonable and manageable. Starting to see some declines at the bottom there. It's important to note that when you see, to keep those declines in perspective, especially our staff does a good job of educating our students. When you're seeing an average of 4, last year was 4.06, this year is 3.98, it means that the average respondent is hitting agree with that statement. Our staff does a good job of educating our students. So slightly off, but still good is my point. Okay, next slide. The school board is doing what it takes to make our district successful. This is, again, ordered in terms of percent change, but now we're in a different survey section, and so the ordering starts over is what's happening here. School board is doing what it takes to make our district successful. The district is heading in the right direction. District administration is doing what it takes to make our district successful. I have opportunities for training and professional development to improve my work. These are big gains. Like you can see that in terms of the comparison number, it's still lower than the comparison average, but these are big jumps over the previous year. This is a parenthetical that is kind of neither here nor there, but it's always interesting to me that we ask both these questions about the school board is doing what it takes to make our district successful, and the district administration is doing what it takes to make our district successful, and no community anywhere rates those the same. Like there's always a difference between those two. I don't know what the local politics are in terms of who gets credit for things going well, but things are going well, and things are going better this year than they were last year, according to staff members. Next slide, please. All students in our school are respected for their values and beliefs. I am recognized when I do a good job. I feel safe at work. I have training and support to work with students from different backgrounds. In the last year, I received useful feedback to improve my work. A quick note on this slide, I feel safe at work is a lagging indicator, which just means it takes a little bit longer to catch up to some other things. You saw in the earlier section, staff feeling much better about student discipline than they did last year. That's going to be reflected in next year's survey in I feel safe at work. I predict it takes a little bit for those two things to have. I feel safe at work is downstream from student discipline issues in general. Next slide, please. The social and emotional, this is the support section. Bear in mind that this was like the index, or like a lot of these questions feed the index that was down in the initial one, and you'll see that. The social and emotional needs of all students are being met, up by 9.2%. All students in our school are given equal opportunities to learn and experience success, up 4.3%. District's pay practices are fair. People feel better about that this year than last year. Staff input is valued, also up. Next slide, please. Our parents and community support the school district, up. Our school supports students from diverse backgrounds, up. I have healthy working relationships with my coworkers. It's flat, but also 4.27 means it's between agree and strongly agree for the average respondent. Our school has a process to ensure every student has a connection with at least one adult in school, slightly down. Next slide, please. Our school supports students who fall into the following categories. All of these are up with the exception of all genders, which is slightly off, but again, 4.10 means the average respondent is hitting agree. Next slide, please. I have the materials and supplies I need to do my job well, slightly down. I have access to the technology support that I need, off by 7.8%. And then the one that I think is responsible for most of the overall support index, I have the technology I need to do my job well, is way down this year from last year. And I'm sure that's not news to anybody in this room, though it's news to me, obviously, it is outside of this data. So overall satisfaction, the last question that we ask is a net promoter score. How likely are you to recommend the district as a place of employment? We like to look at the 8s, 9s, and 10s. Those are your active promoters, people who will start conversations about and try to recruit their friends to come work in the district because it's such a great place to work. The important thing to note is that this number is up, the average number is up 7.6% over last year. People feel much more positively on average than they did last year. And that is the overall report. I think, unless I'm summary analysis, I don't think that there is one. Oh, yes, my God. Look at me at remembering what's in my own report. 5 items of the highest score, so just the highest by average. Healthy working relationships with coworkers. Schools support students with diverse backgrounds. Our staff does a good job educating our students. I feel safe at work. I feel supported by my supervisor and administrator when I make a decision. Next slide. The lowest scores. School board is doing what it takes to make our district successful, even though that's also most improved. District administration is doing what it takes to make our district successful, even though that's hugely improved. The district is headed in the right direction, also hugely improved. Our parents and community support the school district, that's also up, and the district's pay practices are fair, also up. So like, this is just the average. I'm just reminding people that, like, again, okay, so I just said all this. School board is doing what it takes to make our school successful, big jump. District heading in the right direction, big jump. District seeks input from a broad group of staff members, is up a good deal. Our school student discipline practices and policies are effective, and information important to my work is shared with me in a timely and effective manner. Our staff does a good job of educating our students. It's slightly down. In the last year, I received useful feedback, slightly down. Amount of work I'm asked to do is reasonable and manageable is down a little bit. And then the 2 technology questions are way down. Those are, and that really is the end of the overall report.
Thank you, Dr. Gottlieb. Are there any questions from board members? Mr. Hankins.
Yes, Dr. Gottlieb, you accentuated the positives, which is very good. At the end there,
yeah.
The negatives, I saw you just glanced over the 2 tech things at the end. In your opinion, and we're comparing ourselves to ourselves from last year to this year and going up. I'd like to know, you obviously do this for a lot of districts, you told us that. Where do we compare and where are we deficient? I don't want to hear the positives, I want to hear the negatives, please.
Okay. I mean, if you look at the average score and the comparison scores, on an item by item level, Beloit is generally below the comparison average across the board on just about everything. If you're talking about comparing yourselves to yourselves, then the direction of change within the district is headed in the right direction. In terms of comparing yourselves to other districts, there's work to be done in pretty much every area. The places where Beloit is at or slightly above or slightly below the comparison average, that is, our comparisons are other districts similar to Beloit in terms of enrollment, percentage of students receiving free and reduced lunch, and that kind of thing. In the places where Beloit is at or slightly above or slightly below the district or other districts, they are really important ones. Pay practices are fair. Student discipline, I feel safe at work. Those are the most meaningful indicators in terms of staff retention. And so if there's a place to be particularly even with with other districts across the state, those are the important ones. I realize I'm still doing the thing where I'm trying to be like, there are some positives here, and yet, but yeah, if you want something that is, I mean, I don't see the technology numbers dropping as they are here in other districts, and it makes me think that there must be some policy thing that went into effect, that it was a deliberate decision that staff are not happy with. But that's unrelated, it seems to me, to general trends or the general performance of the district in the eyes of staff.
Well, thank you, but I think you're still being a politician. where the school district of Beloit, where can we, in your opinion, use our, I thank God we're progressing, getting better in some areas. I want to know where we can do our best job to influence and get our numbers up for next year when we do this, please.
Okay, well, there's a few different ways to answer that question, and I'm not trying to be a politician when I say that. It depends on what is most important to the district in terms of its staff. If we're talking about impacts on staff retention, then the place that you are making the most progress now are places where I would recommend continuing to make efforts. That is, seeking improvement or input from staff members, in disciplinary stuff, making sure that communication with staff members is timely and transparent and all that stuff. That's important for making staff members make the decision to re-up with the district on a year-over-year basis. And that does produce student outcomes or makes student learning outcomes easier to achieve in the long term. If you were focused more on student outcomes in the short term, then, I mean, it's honestly similar. You would want to keep the focus on student discipline practices being effective, on staff feeling safe at work. Those are just general indicators of the orderliness of the learning environment in general. Yeah, those are the ones. Those are the most immediately impactful ones that I would recommend focusing on. Everything else is sort of downstream, feeling supported in general by one's administration, receiving useful feedback to help improve my work. If those other things are happening, then those numbers will rise too. Is that more what you were asking for?
Well, I thank you. I guess I wanted you to be more critical of our district so we can get better, but we'll leave it as where it is. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hankins.
Well, I mean critical, but in a positive way. I mean, we need to learn from these surveys. Thank you.
There are some wins here that I thank all of the cabinet members and building administration for making those wins, and for fellow board members for their efforts. And there are still areas we have room to grow, and we're just going to keep focusing on that. Ms. Miller?
Thank you so much, and thank you, Board President Johnson. I was also just going to, thanks to everybody who's, working to create the positives and the growth in our district. Absolutely. I just wanted to take kind of like an opposite approach to my colleague, Mr. Hankins, totally. But I think with respect to maybe one of the things he's trying to get at here. So I'm a teacher in my day job, and one thing that I know is that it's important to take an assets-based approach to things, do well, identify what we're doing well, and like what is making us do this well, and like how do we like build on what we're doing well. I'm just going to keep saying that, I guess, sorry, just to kind of capitalize on that, and then hopefully improve these other areas as well. So I guess just from your own, from your own professional background and experience, of the things that you've highlighted that are going in a positive direction, which would you advise us as a board, I guess, just to prioritize in terms of, this is what we are maybe the most impactful to sort of continue to lean into, and which of those things do you think could potentially bring up the areas that are of the highest needs? I'm just curious what your insights are on that, and like kind of the trends for what you see districts do that continue to improve.
Yes. I mean, I think that my answer to that is going to be very similar to the last answer that I gave, which is like the places that I think that Beloit is making the most improvement, especially in the classroom. Staff see that that their opinions are mattering more than they have in the past. Staff see that schools' student discipline practices and policies are effective. They understand that information important to their work is being shared with them in a timely and effective manner. Each of these measures is still slightly below the comparison average, but significantly better than it was last year. All of those four things that I articulated are the parts of a staff experience that makes staff feel like they're part of a team that is dedicated to the same kind of mission and pulling in the same direction, and that they're not just on their own. So that's the positive. And I would just say, like, I can see in the data that the administrative team has put a lot of emphasis on those issues. It's not like the areas where you see big gains are the areas of emphasis over the previous year. The thing that is the interesting indicator, and I'm not sure what recommendation to make about this, is I did highlight it as something of a positive. It's the item about teachers, healthy relationships with coworkers. That's great. Our staff does a good job of educating our students, is the one that I'm looking for. That one is a little bit lower than comparison average, even though it's still generally good. But that's one to keep an eye on, is what I would say. It's not one that is easy to directly impact, obviously. But the better staff feel about how their colleagues are doing, the more it sort of reinforces that sense that we're all on the same team and working for the same mission. There's a little discrepancy in the direction that feeling valued by the administration, feeling like they've got support from colleagues and administration when it comes to discipline, and also believing that teachers in the rooms next to them are doing the same kind of good job that they are. Those things all tend to go together, and I would like to see next year that our staff does a good job of educating our students back on the other side of 4.0 and trending upward rather than downward. It's interesting is the way that I would say, to see like that one falling off a little while those other indicators are moving in the other direction.
No, that's like super helpful. No, and I realized that I was a bit redundant in my question. I guess I'm just trying to take a different lens on it. And I think
Sure.
Actually really appreciate your last comment in particular. It's great to hear, and I just again want to commend our administration. It's fantastic to see those trends, particularly with student safety, culture kind of pieces. I just think obviously this is going to be taken back by the administration and they're going to act on that. And I think as a board, one thing that I'm taking away that we can maybe help do at our level is just to continue to celebrate, on a classroom by classroom basis, like these are the wins that we're seeing academically. And I think Board Member Johnson mentioned this in her comments earlier, we all do what we can to interact in those buildings. I think, taking more opportunities to uplift hey, these are some great things that I'm seeing, whether as a parent or visiting schools, et cetera, just to help reinforce that message. So thank you so much for taking the time to speak to that.
Joanne
My
Root?
pleasure.
Yes. So you talked of the, I have the support I need to help educate our students and work as a team, and you attributed that to the technology score, which I think part of that is because part of trying to balance a budget last year, we went from MacBooks to Chromebooks, which is a huge change. I'm wondering where in this, I'm guessing it would be in that part, in support. We are struggling to fill vacancies, and we are short substitute teachers as well. And so we've had teachers have to take on more students, whether it's just for a couple of days or in some cases since the beginning of the school year. Would those struggles be reflected in that score as well? Or if not, where would that fall?
You're talking about like the general, if I'm understanding you correctly, the staff indexes page that I pulled up where there's academics, engagement, support, student experience, staff experience. Support is the index category, which is down 4% over last year. My hypothesis was that a lot of that is because of the significant drop in the technology rating. But you're right that it's not only that. I would see the amount of work I am asked to do is reasonable and manageable is down 3.3% over last year. That's usually the item where we see the kinds of issues that you're describing with trouble getting substitutes, with teachers basically having to give up some of their planning time, their prep time in order to cover additional classes, or feeling stretched by administrative demands of one kind or another. That's the item in which you would see that appear as well. It's just like the amount of work I'm asked to do is reasonable and manageable. Otherwise, yeah. And so, yeah, that's down as well.
All right, thank you.
No problem.
Mrs. Fox? Oh, I'm sorry. Are there any other questions for either Mr. Gottlieb or Mrs. Almendarez? Thank you so much. We appreciate both of your time and effort in putting this presentation together. Oh, Mrs. Almendarez?
Thank you to everyone for your time.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Our next item is the staffing plan discussion. The purpose of this is to discuss the district staffing matrix, and this is Dr. Garrison and Mrs. Almendarez with others assisting the cabinet members. Dr. Garrison, Mrs. Almendarez.
Yeah, so a few weeks ago, we discussed some of the staffing thoughts that we had here in the district. We, of course, have responded to a lot of the questions that the board has asked for. We have shared that information. We thought it would be important to bring this conversation back as discussed. Another document was worked on, and that's why we're here today for any other additional questions, and we can kind of go from there.
Mrs. Almendarez.
So I want to thank Ms. Fox for the opportunity to bring our minds together and present the information in a different way for the board to review and analyze where our staffing is and our enrollment. So that was a great opportunity to collaborate. Thank you.
Do board members have questions about the staffing plan that is attached, current as of October 23rd, 2025? Go ahead, Mrs. Fox.
One of the things that we outlined in the staffing plan is some of the vacancies that are not filled with either regular Beloit School District Beloit staff or contracted staff. And I'm wondering what is being done to ensure that these vacancies, especially some of these classrooms, are filled with someone who's there on a daily basis.
Absolutely. So there is ongoing work in trying to identify means of recruitment that will allow us to bring quality staff to our district. We, not to harp on the fact that this is a nationwide deficit of teachers. It goes with the number of students that enroll to become a teacher and the number of teachers who retire year after year. So we are working not only on the staffing, but I do want to point out that we're continuously hiring. And so there is also the aspect of retention that I think needs to also be emphasized. We can hire, I'm looking at Converse right now, we can hire, second grade teacher, bring them in, and then we have a fifth grade teacher that leaves. And so the board is always going to see similar numbers because of that revolving door. So I think that internally, one of the things that I've derived for the purpose of my department is how we can collaboratively work at the building level and with other cabinet members to ensure that the experience for teachers is increased to a more desirable experience. We do need to increase our visibility in the buildings for not just what we're doing in the building, whatever task we're doing, but also to make ourselves present and accessible. And I think most importantly is going back to having a perhaps a monthly, if not more frequent, orientation for all staff, teacher and otherwise, because we do go to great lengths at the beginning of the school year to familiarize staff that has been hired over the summer with all things School District of Beloit. And we have been falling very flat on creating a similar experience for those that we recruit throughout the school year. So I think it's about orientation. I think it's about how we allow them to acclimate, what resources we provide them, and working more on retaining them so that the recruitment piece is not as challenging.
I understand that, but I'm talking about particularly some buildings. Converse and Todd come to mind right away. They have 2 classroom vacancies. And I know they're permanent subs, but they only have 1 permanent sub. And I was wondering if other subs are being utilized from other buildings to fill some of those. What I'm hearing is that they're playing round robin, catch 22, who can catch them today kinds of things. And I think we need to be better at putting a permanent sub or somebody in that position to keep those kids educated. Our kids need somebody who greets them every day, especially in the elementary. And like I said, both Todd and Converse have 2 classroom vacancies.
Yes, ma'am. And we are working with the building administration to address how those gaps can be covered. Unfortunately, substitute is another area where staffing is sparse, to say the least. And so, yes, we are trying whatever means necessary to recruit, to find individuals that are qualified and put them in our classroom. We will be upping a lot with the filling of the staffing coordinator position. We'll also be increasing our access at the higher ed level so that we can start bringing staff in fresh from their graduating class. I know that TLE has been working, Rochelle Elliott has been working with our existing contacts to bring student teachers into our buildings and trying to create the best experience possible for them so that we can in turn retain them. So there is work being done. Unfortunately, the numbers don't accurately reflect all the work that is being done to bring teachers to the School District of Beloit.
I do appreciate that. We do need to bring them here. My concern is what's going on in those classrooms today, tomorrow, until we can get somebody in there. What are we doing to cover those classrooms? Because, like I said, there's 13 permanent subs in the district. My question is, what are all those subs doing? And if they're not being used for these vacancies, why not?
So we do have permanent building subs that are assigned to each of the buildings, as you're aware. Unfortunately, aside from the vacancies that exist, we also have day-to-day absences. We have individuals that are slated to go on any type of leave of absence, FMLA or otherwise. And so, unfortunately, every building is utilizing their permanent building sub to its fullest capacity. So if I was to take one from, say, BMHS to bring over to Converse, then that is going to be a gap in the instruction at the high school, which is a little harder to cover because you may only have that one teacher covering that subject matter that cannot have those students split. And so we have looked at how we can repurpose the individuals that are assigned to each building, but it would be plugging one hole by unplugging another.
Well, yes, but you know that I'm missing a person for a day or two is not exactly the same as missing a person every single day. And you know, I know that the teachers at both these schools are filling out blue sheets and they're having to have, you know, extremely large classes and doing things like that. And it's like, so in another school, they're missing their permanent sub and they have to fill out blue sheets for a couple of days. At least they're not doing it every single day, which is if you have these two vacancies in these buildings, that's a daily ongoing struggle.
Understood.
Ms. Miller?
Okay, thank you so much. I think Ms. Fox and I are similarly on a similar page. So I just two clarifying questions. You mentioned about the retention efforts. I know the board did kind of like an informal survey before. Have we considered speaking with both like the BEA and just like, you know, maybe just at each building and just getting some direct feedback from our educators about retention issues? You know, is this like, you know, if you could give us, that's my first of two questions, just a sense of like, to what extent is this happening or are you planning for this to happen?
Absolutely. So too late, but we do conduct exit surveys, and that's not when we want to find out how we could have kept them. But we also have BEA co-president. They have an open line of communication whenever there are concerns, either with one or multiple individuals within the membership. They have direct access to HR so that we can, as promptly as possible, make sure that we address the things that are of higher importance that are brought to their attention. At the building levels, I meet with the principals on a regular basis. If not meet, we communicate at least every day or every other day. And again, trying to address things as they come up and trying to take things off of teachers' plates as best as we can. So there is collaboration in trying to address things before they become a reason for somebody to consider leaving the district. One of the things that was part of, and not part of this conversation, but part of the department goals is to have check-ins throughout the year, stay interviews with staff so that we can start feeling those hot spots before, again, they become so unbearable that an individual elects to leave rather than have the opportunity to make that better for them.
That's very helpful. And I mean, I think, just as much as we can do, like whether it's a focus group, you know, some kind of cadence of really getting in front of teachers and listening to people's day-to-day experiences. I absolutely appreciate the collaboration and communication. I'm sure our principals are doing a fabulous job advocating for their staff as well. I think just like speaking as somebody who's like a teacher, I mean, I think anytime we can get in front of administration and just talk about like, hey, this is like my day-to-day, I think that could also really help inform some moves that we make. My second question is regarding recruitment. You had mentioned, you know, like sometimes, you know, numbers don't necessarily reflect the work that's going into things. From a board perspective, as we're making strategic decisions about resource allocation, et cetera, speaking as one of 7, one thing I would really love to see is just, I don't know if there's some kind of a report that can maybe already exist or that could be generated through what we're doing with WeCan and other posting mechanisms to see what, I guess, like what our response rate is, maybe by like category, whether it's like special education as its own category, paras, general ed teachers, et cetera. I would love to see a report for what our response rate is and what our turnaround time has been when we have people who apply to positions. I think that that's something from a board standpoint, just to have a high level view of like what that process looks like could be very helpful, and it'll help us make those, I know like board goals is on the agenda tonight, help us understand how best to prioritize our vision for how we best move forward with both recruitment and retention. Is that possible to produce a report about what our response rate is, maybe disaggregated by type of position, and what the turnaround time and response rate has been with those applicants?
So WeCan does have a series of reports that you can pull directly from the software that would satisfy the number of applicants per position type, et cetera. And we would have to then look at the response time, create the metric for each of those positions for from recommendation to start date.
I think it would be helpful. I mean, I don't want to, I'm not going to be part of a rumor mill. I have heard things from people, though, about, so-and-so didn't get some kind of communication and things like that. I think it would just be very helpful for us to just kind of get that hard look at, like, what are the numbers, what are those response times, et cetera. I think just maybe it'll help improve culture. B, it'll help us sorry, the echo is really distracting. It'll help improve culture, and also I think it'll help us as a board just make strategic decisions about like how to resource things, how do we move forward with recruitment, just to be more effective. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Joanne Rue?
Yes, thank you. Okay, so the hot spots you were speaking of, I think, in wanting to retain teachers, I'm hearing from people that are taking on basically a half an extra class, that is something that makes them reconsider whether they're coming back next year. So I think these are probably our like spots where we really need to think creatively, out of the box kind of stuff to take care of that, because right now teachers are teaching classes where it's 1.5 classes instead of one class, and it's not sustainable. My question is, this is my first time hearing about a staffing coordinator. I love this idea. Are we going to have like workshops or some sort of brainstorming sessions where we come up with ideas of how to recruit more people? We're really low on substitutes. There's got to be some ways to attract them. We used to have a huge substitute pool. I know discipline numbers in the past caused a lot of them to walk away. They weren't feeling supported in the classroom. If we can, speak to our improved numbers, yes, they are not where we want them yet, but improved numbers, maybe we could woo some of them back. Maybe we can come up with some incentives for substitutes to have them want to choose Beloit, because it is a competitive market out there for our substitute teachers, I know. So I don't know if those were questions or thoughts, but just throwing it out there.
I welcome both, and yes, I mean, I'm always open to a workshop. The staffing coordinator is an FTE that has unfortunately gone unfilled for the same vacancy issues. We do have a good pool right now that we're reviewing. So I do believe very strongly that with that position being filled within HR, that will be a series of hours, obviously, that can be dedicated exclusively to this objective rather than being one of multiple duties and responsibilities amongst my 2.25 staff and I. So I'm definitely looking forward to what that position can do to the vacancy numbers.
Thank you. I hope their number one priority is making sure we have these classroom positions filled, because I think that's our top priority right now.
And Board President Johnson, I'm having some internet issues, so I'm not able to raise my hand, but whenever I do have a question.
Okay, go ahead.
Thank you. And I'm just going to ask very directly. Are there qualified education professionals that are applying for these vacancies and not being responded to?
So the way that the hiring happens in our district, the hiring manager is the one that makes the initial contact, communication, and selection for interviewing. HR only contacts the candidates who are selected to go through that whole pre-employment contingent offer of hire and ensuring that everything, all policies and procedures were followed in that recruitment process.
So thank you for that context. But again, my question is, are there qualified education professionals that are applying for these vacancies and not being responded to? Because that is a concern that I've heard more than once.
And again, that goes to the hiring manager. So if the hiring manager is not communicating back with the individuals that they have interacted with, then I would have to check with them. I don't know.
Okay, if you could check on that, that would be awesome, because it is my understanding that there are licensed, qualified education professionals that are applying for some of these vacancies and not being responded to. And even if it's a no thank you or whatever the reason is, I just don't think, not that I don't think, we are not in a position where we can ignore qualified education professionals when they are applying for vacancies. That doesn't mean that we automatically hire them, but for us to not respond to them, I cannot think of a reason why that would be appropriate.
Duly noted. I will look into it.
Thank you so much.
Mrs. Fox?
Yeah, we talk about hotspots. Converse and Todd for those positions are hotspots. And again, if we don't help those teachers, they will leave. And, then those teachers are going to be sick. And then you're going to need a sub for those teachers. And the more we can support our teachers and put people in places to help, the likely are that they're going to stay and that other people might want to come here. The other big issue that is of a concern is the cross-cat area. Special ed is a really difficult spot. I understand that. But I really look, again, Todd in particular, I think they only have 2 cross-cat teachers, and they're slated for 4. And it's like, I would think each elementary needs at least 3, and somehow we need to maybe look at how we are staffing that and configuring that. And again, we need to get something so that there's enough staff and enough support staff to meet the needs of the IEPs that we've written. And we do need to make sure that that's happening. I'm also concerned that there are some positions that I'm wondering about that are not full-time and seem to be full-time positions. The art, music, and PE teachers at Merrill are not full-time positions, and we need to know what's going on with that. I'm wondering about the district music teachers, band and orchestra. What are their schedules, and are those really full-time positions? Because we're missing a music teacher at Robinson, and we're missing a .5 music teacher at the high school.
So they are shared between all 6 elementary schools, the shared band music teachers. And I don't have their actual schedule, but I can definitely secure that for the board.
Well, unless things have changed, they used to just be for 5th grade, maybe 4th grade, one of them, and just once a week. And so I think that definitely needs to be looked into, especially when we're missing some music positions. And the Merrill is definitely, art, music, and PE, that's a half-time position. So what's being done with that?
Okay.
Mr. Nichols?
So just one quick question is, as of today, how many teacher, paras, and subs openings do we have unfilled?
I don't have that number
Okay.
on me right now. I
Okay.
apologize.
Okay. Could you forward it to the board when you
I
have a
sure
chance?
will.
Thank you.
If it hasn't changed a whole lot, it's probably about 49. I mean, we filled a couple of positions just the other day. It was about 50, I think, that were unfilled, completely unfilled with not contracted people. So it's got to be around 49, 50.
Ms. Miller?
Thank you so much. And I mean, this is a conversation maybe for another time to consider, but since this is such a multi-layered issue, and I really appreciate where all of my colleagues are coming from, particularly like some comments that Joanne and Carol made. And I'm hearing you on the Salmondaris about like, you know, there's limited staffing capacity in your department. I mean, could this be like an ad hoc type consideration where we bring some folks together? I'd really, again, like to uplift the voices of our classroom teachers. What you're describing now, even in this conversation, is extremely nuanced, right, regarding substitute teachers and types of subs and things like that. So I just wanted to put that out there as a consideration to the board and maybe something to think about going forward.
Any other questions? Mr. Hankins?
Yes, if you could educate me on when, and again, I'm just coming from left field, contracted services, because I've heard that we do hire from contracted services, and how that kicks in and how that plays into this for teaching and, you know, staffing purposes.
So contracted services are when we have exhausted the ability to recruit for a certain position. It started off with hard to fill, so science, math, and of course, everything nowadays is a hard to fill. And so we have expanded even as far as paras. We utilize them only when we don't have a candidate pool to fill a position rather than leaving that position vacant. We have reviewed the values of their compensation for their staff versus what it cost us. And contrary to popular belief, although the hourly rate may seem higher or whatnot, the district in a lot of cases ends up saving money because of HSA, pension, et cetera, that goes into each of our FTEs. Our goal with contracted staff is that be a temporary Band-Aid. The benefit is that after a year with no penalty, if we have a good candidate, we are able to retain them if we mutually agree to do so. The other advantage is that it's a little bit of a test drive. And so if they're not meeting our needs, we can change them out. It's a little harder when you have your own staff. So if we want to look at that as advantages that come with contracted staff, again, this needs to be looked at more as a Band-Aid and not necessarily the direction that the district needs to look at going in the future. Because I think that there's a disconnect that happens if a lot of your staff is contracted versus directly hired.
And I appreciate that, and I understand where you're coming from with contract services, but when do you, as the HR director, decide you're going to go to that rather than knowing you can't fill that void? I mean, is that just your instinct to say we're not going to get any?
There is nothing really about those decisions that are done in a silo in HR. It's through ongoing communication with the building administrators or hiring manager if it's a department need, which we don't have currently. But it usually happens at the hiring manager or building administrator level, where they express their desire to proceed with seeking some candidates that they can bring in. We review, we look at the applicant pool, if any, and if that's verifiable, then they proceed with the interview process for any candidates that are brought forth.
And when you do go to that pool, and let's say we're not getting candidates, or they're not, is their pool usually, do they have people in their pool that, you know what I mean? It's
not always. We have positions that have been open on weekend for
right,
a number of days. Zero.
They don't have them either. Okay, thank you.
Mrs. Fox?
Just one last comment, your Band-Aid comment. It's like, we know all of this is Band-Aids. We get that. My feeling is that we need to make sure the Band-Aids are going to the most, where we're bleeding the most, okay? To me, the classrooms are the priorities. We need to get some people in those classrooms on a daily basis. They need to be there teaching our kids. That's the highest priority. If you, as an administrative group, you decide you can't use permanent subs, then you need to look someplace else. And that's not going to be a happy Band-Aid either. If there's STEAM coaches that you could move into a classroom. I mean, that's not a happy Band-Aid either.
We are utilizing our coaches in the classroom.
And you don't want to, but we need, and it creates other problems. But the Band-Aid needs to go on where we're bleeding the hardest. And from what I can see, we're bleeding the hardest when we don't have first grade teachers and second grade teachers and third grade teachers, and those positions aren't filled.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments for Mrs. Almendarez? Thank you, Mrs. Almendarez. Next, we have our school district goals update. The purpose of this is to share with the board and community an update on the school district of Beloit goals 25-26. The governance committee has been met with the COLAC administration, and I've talked to the building administration. We've had input from different groups on the proposed district goals that, when approved by the board, will serve as the strategic compass that guides success criteria across the entire district. The proposed district goals represents the work of the district governance committee. This is a consultative process between the district and building leadership groups, leading to the proposal of the district goals for the board to review and approve. It is recommended that the board review the proposed goals at the November 4th, 2025 meeting and move to adoption of the final district goals document at the November 18th, 2025 meeting. After board approval of the district goals, departments and school teams will develop action plans to operationalize these goals. These action plans will be shared with the board at a future meeting. Similar to last year, we have goals for student achievement in ELA and math and ACT and pre-ACT, for student attendance, for student conduct, behavior and safety, and for staff retention, compensation, and well-being. And I'm going to ask the board consultant, Dr. Earhart, to walk us through these goals. And let me know when you need me to advance the PowerPoint.
Go. Well, I can keep talking anyway. One of the things, thank you. It's good to be with everyone. Appreciate the opportunity to talk about our work with the governance committee and working with Board President Johnson to develop a proposal of 4 boards for the 4 goals to be considered. You'll notice in all 4 of these goals that there is a student achievement focus. So really, all the 4 goals have a student achievement focus because, again, that's perhaps the most important mission that we have in the school district, or one of them is teaching and learning. So each of them have that within the components. Similar to last year, there is a ELA and math goal and an ACT, pre-ACT goal for the high school in grades 10 and 11. That's similar. We put in an attendance goal because we're looking at the data there too, and we know if kids aren't present for school, if we have a problem with attendance, that will impact learning in a negative way. So the district had started some very robust measures last year to accentuate student attendance, so wanting to continue to have attention and focus on that, and looking very importantly at chronic attendance. That's the one that really will tend to drive things up. So wanting focus and attention that way. Student conduct, behavior, and safety. It was good to hear some positive gains on the survey that was presented tonight. Again, we looked at the information from the Hadley group, again, and this is a front and center concern that you noticed probably in that document and listening session too. So we just want to really adopt the work that's been going on in the ad hoc committee for student conduct and behavior, and really just make that the 3rd goal. And the final one that we've been talking about again here tonight then is staff retention, compensation, and well-being. So that is the 4 goals, and we'll figure out a way maybe to get the PowerPoint that just kind of said what I already said too. One thing I would add to this, the whole retention and recruitment of staff is certainly a challenging one. I know that UW-Whitewater, for example, has a program now where they have paraprofessionals that are in the district, in all of our districts, but in the Beloit School District, that are moving ahead to get their degree. So they're already in the classroom. They're getting their coursework, and I can just say some of them I know because they have that authentic experience in the district and in the classrooms. They're getting really great preparation combined authentically then with their coursework. So hopefully that will yield us more teachers to kind of fill those particular gaps. Yes, sir.
Eric, knowing that UROC is affiliated with Whitewater, do they, by extension, can they be part of this program too?
They are.
They are.
Same
too. Okay. Very good. Thank you.
My apologies that I am not tech savvy to be able to share and this PowerPoint presentation. Are there any questions that board members have? Ms. Levy.
Not a question, but you're good. Everybody's fine. Not a question, but a comment, not exclusively directed to you, but to all of us. Board President Johnson, you mentioned when you opened this section that the district goals reflect the work of the governance committee. And I'm not opposed to any of the goals. Let me just pause and reiterate that. But my concern is that the governance committee does not include the full board. And I think there's a difference when the full board is convened and we come up with goals kind of from scratch together than when the governance committee comes up with great goals and then presents them to the rest of the board for input. I just think it's just 2 different processes, and I prefer to have the full board start together on goals. So I just wanted to put that on the table, and hopefully that is something that we can do moving forward.
Thank you, Ms. Levy. Mrs. Levy, any other comments? Ms. Miller?
Thank you. Building off of Ms. Levy's point, in addition to the board convening as a whole group to workshop through some goals, hopefully goals that are data-driven in collaboration and partnership with our administration, I really think that, and I feel like a bit of a broken record, we have to give some consideration to our strategic plan. The strategic plan that the community worked very hard to develop. We had a very wide range of stakeholders, put a lot of work into that, expired in June. We are coming up on referendum question time at some point. I think that one thing we've heard repeatedly from people who have been both yes and no voters is that they appreciate having voice and feeling a sense of ownership over the vision and direction of the district. And I think it would be a good opportunity for us to begin those conversations, since we are going to be reaching out into the community to get feedback and work in partnership, in order to continue to advance, the progress of our district. So I think that it's, great to do the goals. We obviously have to have some direction on the in-between. I agree with the comments that it's great that these are rooted in student achievement. All that is wonderful. I think we need to take it to kind of the next level, and I think we need to do it collaboratively.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments? Thank you, Dr. Earhart, for assisting me with this presentation. Next on the agenda is the...
Excuse me.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Don't you want a motion?
If board members are ready to move tonight, I will entertain a motion. If board members want time to reflect, we can wait until the 18th.
Well, I think,
There's
these
the
are
presentation. Thank you, Dr. Garrison.
pretty basic goals that, reflecting what the community has definitely said they wanted and what we've been working towards. So, and I think if we want to start moving on these, the longer we wait, the less time we have to move on moving forward with the goals. So I would make a motion that we accept the proposed 25-26 school district of Beloit goals as recommended.
I'll second.
We have a motion by Carol Fox to accept the 25-26 district goals as presented, seconded by Brian Nichols. Any discussion?
Thank you. Have discussions also taken place for how we are going to monitor and report out on the progress of these goals throughout the year? Or is that going to be forthcoming?
The answer is yes. So once the board approved the goals, then the slide that said action plans, then the more detailed plan in the SMART goal format will detail all of those things, and then that will come back to the board. And then within those goals, there's a monitoring system so that it's ongoing. Correct.
Perfect. So just for clarification, like we are looking at the goals, but there are action plans behind those goals. I'm assuming that was developed by administration, and within those action plans, there's like a report out and feedback loop that involves the board?
Yes.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
Mr. Hankins?
Yes, I answered my own question reading this, and I thought it might come up that we're going to action, but it is under action. Just to clarify, it is under board action. So we're legal doing this, and it is under discussion. So I just want to clarify it to the general public and myself. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Mr. Hankins. Ms. Miller?
Thanks. Since I'm happy to take a vote on this evening, but I think it would be really good if we could bring back some kind of discussion on the 18th about maybe what is our actual plan going forward to develop a data-driven strategic plan that has the type of benchmarks and monitoring fleshed out that I think, I don't want to speak for another board member, but it feels to me like maybe it was what Ms. Levy was alluding to. Again, I don't have I have some nitpicky stuff, but on the whole, this is fine. I agree that, there's an obvious North Star here of what do we need to do best for our kids, right? That's not, very contentious. What I do think though is best for our kids is to provide as a board, in our own lane, the stability of leadership that they deserve, and having like the difference between a goal and a strategic plan is that, you know, we're making a vision for like, what are we doing now to impact a vision that we have for where we want our kids to be the next 3 years, 5 years, 10 years. It's something that involves community input, et cetera. So again, I understand there's a motion on the table. I think it would behoove us to bring an item that is like this back to the next meeting, since you did offer that, so that we could have a broader full board discussion about what our vision is going forward to have a strategic plan. Because I really think that while these goals are good for now, kind of to the point that Ms. Fox was making earlier about staffing, like here we are with the Band-Aid again, like let's do the thing that our kids deserve for us to do.
Thank you. Any other discussion? Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Next on the agenda is the consent agenda. Typically, there is no separate discussion of the items unless a board member so requests, in which event the item or items will be removed from the general order of business and considered in their normal sequence on the agenda. Are there any items board members would like to have removed?
Item D is in dog, please.
Any other items? I would entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda minus item D.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Amy Levy, seconded by Brian Nichols. Any discussion? Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Item D, approval of meeting minutes, October 21st. Mrs. Levy.
I just need to abstain because I didn't attend that meeting.
Thank you. Is there a motion to approve the minutes for October 21st?
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Brian Nichols, seconded by Carol Fox. Any discussion? Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions?
I abstain.
Thank you. Motion carries with one abstention. Next up is the Human Resources Employee Recommendations. Are there any open session questions for Exhibit A? Mr. Hankins?
No.
Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, why, thank you. Are there any closed session questions for Exhibit A? Hearing none, is there an approval of Exhibit A?
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Brian Nichols, seconded by Amy Levy. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Our next item is executive session, and we did switch the order of these, so we will be beginning with legal advice regarding updates in the DNR soil contamination suit, followed by consideration related to preparation of interim superintendent interview process. A motion may be made and a vote taken to convene the Board of Education into closed session pursuant to Section 19.85, Parent 1, Parent C of the Wisconsin State Statutes relative to employment, promotion, compensation, or performance evaluation data of any public employee over which the governmental body has jurisdiction or exercises responsibility, and pursuant to Section 19.85, Parent 1, Parent G, conferring with legal counsel regarding next steps in the soil contamination suit. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Amy Levy, seconded by Brian Nichols. Any discussion? Mrs. Shope, when you're ready, a roll call, please.
Joanne Rue,
Aye.
Carol Fox,
Aye.
Megan Miller,
Aye.
Brian Nichols,
Aye.
Tom Hankins,
Aye.
Amy Levy,
Aye.
and Tia Johnson.
Aye.
Motion carried unanimously.
Thank you, Mrs. Schultz. The Board of Education may reconvene to public session in order to take any action, if necessary, on items discussed in closed session. Thank you.
compassion is overwhelming.
We are reconvening in open session at 9:38. We are taking action on the legal advice regarding updates in the DNR soil contamination suit. Is there a motion?
Yes.
I
move-
Sorry.
I move to approve the proposed settlement from the litigation against Bray Architects, Inc., Corporate Contractors, Inc., PSI, also known as Professional Service Industries, Inc., in the amount of $105,000.
Second.
A motion by Brian Nichols, seconded by Amy Levy. Any questions? All in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Amy Levy, seconded by Brian Nichols. Any discussion? Joanne?
No.
Oh, okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Hi.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Have a good night, everyone.
Thank you. Have a good night.